Hello there, Sir from 17 once again. This is my NieR Automata very hard difficulty video walkthrough. This is chapter 9, it's called Deranged Religion. So once you come back to the bunker, I don't even know if you have to come back to the bunker, but I did. You can check your email at one of these boxes, and it's going to trigger the next mission objective, which is to follow Pascal into this kind of crazy cultish sect of robots that are worshipping some kind of machine god. And it's going to escalate quickly into another dungeon/action sequence, and then it's going to reach its fulcrum, and there will be a boss fight, and then afterwards the game's going to escalate really quickly into boss fight, boss fight, boss fight, boss fight, and then the end of game. And we're coming on the section now where I really stopped enjoying NieR. Pretty much everything past this point, gameplay-wise, is just not as fun to me. There's some parts that jump out as being cool, and there's some parts that jump out as being interesting, but with the combination of the gameplay and the checkpoints and a lot of the systems at work, I stopped having any fun with the game. You get to play as two characters who have interesting differences to them. One of them features a hacking ability, which is kind of cool and different. The other one can taunt and go into a berserk mode instead of self-destructing, where everything gets pretty much straight out of Kill la Kill. And it's really nice and it's interesting, but a lot of the situations that they have you doing, I didn't enjoy. And it stems from Gauntlet fights with bad checkpoints, bosses with bad design, and reuse of said bosses with bad design. And I'm going to try my best to kind of appraise them with an objective look and kind of give you the pros and the cons of them, how to beat them, you know, how I feel about them, and where I feel they're lacking, where I feel they're strong. But the next two campaigns are probably going to be much rougher than this one, because the game just kind of falls down, and a lot of people are going to find that to be too much to take when I say a statement like that, because everybody seems to think this game is perfect. But I really do think that 2B's campaign is the strongest, and it's the strongest because it's, you know, it's new. The rest are kind of recycled with certain new attributes, and a lot of the new stuff is so frustration-inducing that if you are going to do any of this on a harder difficulty, then I wish you well, because some of the checkpoints coming up. And you might be wondering what bits I'm talking about, because right now you can't do anything but follow this NPC, and he's very slow. Well, the bits that I'm really afraid of are the Haegele Fight in the desert when you play as A2, because I don't know if you've done that fight on hard or above, but it's a nightmare. He was 5 levels higher than me, and everything he did killed me instantly, and there's about 6 pods, and each of these pods can spam lasers, and like, what do you do? I can't even tell you. I had to spam items to live. And you know me, guys, I hate using items. I'd rather die. But in that fight, I saved myself into a corner where I couldn't even farm and get higher levels or anything. I couldn't do anything. I was at the fight. Because I'd done a save technique to get rid of the first fight to get to the boss, and I'd put myself in a corner. So to get through that fight, I used like 20 items. And that was only on hard. So I have no idea how I'm going to do that fight, because that fight is trash. It's just bukkake badly designed lasers and a boss that takes 1,000,000 hits to die. So as it stands, I think I'm going to level to 99. I think I'm going to farm levels, go in there and shit on its chest. I don't want to do that. I have not done any farming or any true leveling on this run outside of the few side quests and the main missions, because you don't need to for 2B's campaign. 2B's campaign is the best of a bad bunch. 9S's. I haven't done anything for 9S either, no farming, just embraced it, just done it, had a lot of fun, it's really solid. But the post-credit gameplay between 9S and A2, it's just shitfest after shitfest after shitfest. And I don't mean that from a narrative perspective, because it's arguably some of the most interesting parts of the game, but from a gameplay perspective on the harder difficulties, it's bad checkpoints and one-hit kills, and it's not good at all, in any conceivable way, there's no defending it. So the Haegele Fight is going to be something really interesting, because I do have a strategy for him, and I do have a way of going in with good damage, but I think I'm going to over-level him. I'm not going to get to 99 unless I absolutely have to, but I'm going to see when we get there. I'm not going to save myself in a corner again. I'm going to see if I can figure something out. Maybe I'm a better player, maybe it'll go smoother, I don't really know. Oh, by the way, guys, you get no experience for killing these enemies, so don't do it, you're not going to level up. Get to the elevator as quick as you can, try not to die. The second bit is the Gauntlet from the library in the tower when you play as A2, all the way up to the Yorha Flyers where you play as 9S. For some reason, they expect you to do 20 minutes of gameplay with no checkpoint and 2 fights in a row that are big gauntlets. One of them against an enemy you've never fought before. And there's not just one of them, there's like 5 of them. They take a massive beating, and at any time if they do that bullshit laser, it's incredibly tough to dodge because they just keep it on your character no matter where you go. It's horrible. That took me ages on hard, and once again, I had to heal to get past it. And I hated every part of it. Horrible design, horrible section, completely loathe it. And then the third one is the final push of the game, where you control A2 and you go onto the moving platform all the way up to the final boss where there's a checkpoint, thank God. But up until that point, there's one particular spot after 3 boss phases, 4 fights and a whole host of bullshit. You do a bunch of normal androids on that moving platform that's very restricted, and then it spawns 2 of those bullet spammers. And I couldn't kill them quick because they were 10 levels higher than me. So they bukkake the entire thing with bullets, and the bullets kill you instantly. So once again, I had to equip a fucking chip that made me survive a hit if I took it, and then I healed when I took a hit. So I had to spam items to get past that. And I don't want to do that on a guide, because that's not what a guide should be. So right now, I'm going to have my hands full on that final campaign, figuring out the best way to help you. And I pray you're doing it on normal, because you're never going to notice what it was about, or you're never going to see any of these points, and you're never going to know, because ignorance truly is bliss. But if you're not, then you know. You know, you're like Tom Cruise when he's at an accident. He knows. He's the only one who can help. Praise Scientology. But it's horrible. But this is not. Look at this perspective, dude. I love this camera. There's some camera movements in this game that are beautiful. Have you ever noticed in the bunker when you go between the elevators, how it rotates out, follows the elevator, and goes in one continuous shot to show where you come out of it? The reason I've kept that in instead of trimming it out is because it's beautiful. It's the closest this game gets to Hitchcockian direction, and I love it. Really, really great camera work. That's the stuff the game does really well. Beautiful cameras at times, beautiful perspective. But it also puts the gameplay in it, and sometimes the gameplay meshes with the camera, and that's when things get a bit rough. This entire sequence here is going to be side-on for most of it, and then it's going to pull the camera out. It's going to be introducing the suicide bombers again, and a couple of fights that I'm going to skip, because there is no checkpoint in any of this, again. And you die so quick. Like, I'm a broken record, I'm flogging that dead horse. The checkpoint should have been better. And you know what's really frustrating about this particular sequence? There's a shortcut that's taken directly from a Souls game. You go all the way up this tower and unlock an elevator that gives you a nice short path to the next part of the level. Why not a checkpoint? Why has everything changed now because of one series came along and changed things? I don't get it. Like look at active reloads in Gears of War. Completely changed how you think about third-person shooters' reload animations and what you can do with them as a mechanic. A skill-based mechanic to better the player in gameplay. It's genius. It's like the fucking third-person camera that Resident Evil 4 pretty much created. Absolute genius. Everything's borrowed it and iterated on it and changed it, and it's redefined gaming. But no fucker copies active reloads. Except for bad games that do it really badly. Yet they copy the shit out of Souls that's bad. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm all for level design having shortcuts and being more interesting and dynamic, because I think that's a great thing to aspire towards. But don't kill your fucking checkpoints just so that you can add it in there arbitrarily. It just seems so weird. And it's funny too, because, you know, if this was the same precedent in every Platinum games, I would never play these games. I wouldn't. If Bayonetta had these checkpoints, I'd have never beat it. I'd have just stopped playing. Not for me, not my game. Metal Gear Rising, same. All of them same. Like, it's baffling to me how anybody can find enjoyment in it. And it's not getting mentioned. And that's frustrating to me. But that highlights a bigger issue anyway. And the biggest issue right now is that these enemies have absolutely no answer to Shockwave. I'm keeping them off the screen, completely bullied, and they're a higher level than me. So they're really frustrated right now. And Pascal is being a champion at blocking my bullets and my attacks and not doing anything. Because once again we have a companion who doesn't do ult. And I don't know why. And that might need translating, because it's one of those wonderful colloquialisms of where I come from. So, doesn't do ult. OWT is probably how you'd spell that. It's just another way of saying anything from the slang of where I live. One of those beautiful things like, we say cunt, and everyone's like, oh my god, what did you just say? But we mean couldn't, because it's of course shortened in its abbreviated way. You know, I couldn't do that, I don't know how you could. But to some people, they just hear you just said the word cunt and it's really bad. Which is kind of fascinating how language has that stuff. But the good part about this is that you get a lot of drops, and hopefully you'll get something interesting. You'll notice that we're getting a lot of auto heals. So I should probably talk about the chips I don't use. If you're playing on a difficulty where you can survive a hit and you want to get your life back without using items, I would recommend using either Offensive Heal or Deadly Heal. They're my two favourite healing chips. One of them gives you a percentage of life back for the percentage of damage you do. The other one gives you a percentage for when you kill enemies. It can work inside the shmup areas, it can work on the character action areas, and it's really powerful. Those two heals are the fairest heals in the game, and the closest to being balanced that you'll get. If you want to play and still heal, and still feel challenged, then I would recommend using those, because they're just really good. Then we move on to the ones that are less balanced. One of them is literally auto heal. It gives you a percentage of life per seconds that tick, and you can increase it to a large amount and put a lot on, and you can essentially constantly have a heal at all times. And then of course you have the items, which you can carry hundreds of and instantly heal at any other moment. But there's a limitation that I haven't mentioned that I need to. Is this a fight? No, it's not. We're good. You cannot pause the game when you are in an action. This is the shortcut, by the way, this elevator. So I'm going to show you where it puts us. It puts us where we began. So if you die, you would be here, but you would be at the bottom of the elevator. You couldn't take the elevator up and get to where we are. But because we've opened the shortcut, now we can skip all that shit you just saw and get immediately to this point, which is good, but a checkpoint would have sufficed. And I don't know why that would have been difficult, but apparently it's too difficult for this game. And then we get more side-on interesting gameplay. This stuff is all really interesting. I like this a lot. It's simple, it's got some interesting gimmicks, it's a shift, a complete gameplay shift. There's lots of stupid stuff to it, but it's fun. Do I like being on conveyor belts that affect movement with crush threats that are something out of Streets of Rage? No. Do I want them to drop suicide bombers while I'm dealing with all this shit and the steam and I can't see? No. But the fact they did it is interesting, because it presents a new challenge, a different task of how to avoid and overcome, and it's cool. And I appreciate that, as much as it's not to my tastes. That shit's fine, because it's not badly designed, it's just crazy. It's just one of those things where like you either like it or you don't. Just like this fella here. There are two enemies there that just bukkake bullets, and there's no way to conventionally dodge them, because they can literally fill the entire screen, so you have to shoot, slash, and dodge through them, and if you do it incorrectly, dead. So, I'm going to run all the way over here, and I'm going to hit this save point, because God bless the save points. If they didn't exist, I wouldn't be making this guide. And now we're going to go towards the boss, which bullied me for a long time on my live stream. I don't know the names of the bosses, guys, because they're still in kanji, but if you go to the wiki, it has the names of these particular enemies. The fight coming up here is... if you break it down, it's mechanically simple, and it's not bad. But in the way it's presented, it's horrible. So the first aspect is you have no control over the camera, and the camera puts it so that it makes it very difficult to tell what's happening. You cannot do any damage to the boss because he has a shield, and you have to wait an arbitrary amount of time so that the shield can be neutralized before you can even actually fight back. I don't understand why anybody thinks that's good, or what it adds to the game. It doesn't add tension, doesn't add anything, just makes it frustrating on repeat plays. And the boss can do every single move he has in the first phase. So the only silver lining in this piece of archaic dog shit is the fact that you will see everything this boss can do, because he's not going to change. The only time he changes is at the very end of the fight, and I'm going to show you how to skip that phase because nobody likes it. So all I'm going to do here, guys, is I'm going to dodge around this arena. I have no control over the camera, I have no idea where the boss is half the time, but you just have to put up with it. And then after 9S breaks his shield, it's going to give you camera control, but it ain't quick about it, and you can still die. So you've got to, you know, keep your distance, and then when the lights go out and you get your camera back, all we're going to do is we're going to wait for him to attack. Hopefully it's going to be the anal prolapse move, which I hate, the 3 spikes of doom. You're going to strafe the spikes and hug his side where his legs are, and then you're going to attack his legs. When you break a leg, it will stun the boss. At that point, his tapeworm's going to poke itself out, go to the tail, and then hit the tail, because the tail's the weak point. And then if you do enough damage during those moments, you will cripple him consistently, because you'll be hitting his legs, hitting his tail, hitting his legs, hitting his tail, and then on the final phase, you want to use a damage up and a range up to make sure you do enough damage to completely skip the ball phase. Because the ball phase is a moving hitbox, and it's really douchey. It's not as douchey as it's going to be later on, but in this fight, it's still not wanted. And like, look at the damage I'm doing. And he falls over. Oh, there was the anal prolapse of doom. There was the mirage, couple of missiles, trying to break his legs to knock him down. Where's the knockdown? Come on. I don't know about you guys, but I can't see either. You know? This is why this boss fucking sucks. But we knocked him down. I go into the menu. I'm going to pop both of those enhancement items. I'm going to pop more than one, actually, because I'm stupid and I was all excited. And then we're going to go in and finish this phase. And what happens is, on his final threshold of life, he goes into a ball formation. You can't kill him in this phase. He has to transform. But he has no life now, so the second phase will have no effect at all, because once you hit it, it will die. So he turns into the ball, and he'll spin, charge straight at you, dodge it early, or you'll die, and then counter it, and it's the end of the fight. That's all you had to do. And I cannot stress this enough. You need to remember everything you just did then. You need to remember all those animations, all those attacks, all those windows, all those opportunities, because you're going to fight him again in like 5 minutes. And it's the exact same fight, only now he's electrified, and the ball phase is way worse. So I don't know why he comes back so soon. I don't know why they think recycling it immediately afterwards is endearing, but it's terrible. And I was stuck on that fight for about 4 hours, and the irony is I killed it on my 3rd attempt. And then I ended up running away, triggering an ending, which I haven't explained that, so I should probably explain. At any point in this game, when you're fighting a boss or something kicks off, if you run to go somewhere else and do something else, be it a side mission, try and save, go to a shop, if the game warns you that you should probably get back into the action, you cannot ever, ever ignore that warning. You have to do what it says, because you'll trigger an ending. If you want an ending, then do it, because you'll get all kinds of dodgy ones where they go fishing or they wander off into the desert or insert bullshit stupid piece of design. And you might be thinking, well, Chris, why are you so angry at the idea of these endings? Isn't that a cool thing that it's got all these wonderful random endings? Well, yeah, that's great. But do you know what else it does? It boots you to the fucking menu without saving. So, you know, if you were on a tenuous checkpoint, you know, one of those rare things that this game barely uses, well, it doesn't work. It reloads you back from a save. So coming up, there's 2 bosses in a row. There's a checkpoint between them. If you get an ending before the second boss, you have to kill the first boss again. And that's what I did. Because this game is fucking stupid, and it's designed by crazy people. And I love the idea of it, but it's too bullshit. It should save. It should checkpoint correctly. Like, there's only so many ways I can say it. It's broken, and it will never be fixed. And people think it's a virtue, and they think it's endearing, and they encourage it. And the more you encourage a bad habit, the worse it gets and the more it spreads. Because it's communicable. Look at some of the shit in the Souls games that are appearing everywhere now. Nobody wants that. They play Souls for that shit. They don't play other games for it. Like, you go to certain games for certain things. You don't want everything in everything, or it just becomes Ubisoft. And I don't understand why they don't get that. Like, there's a reason that everyone's frustrated at Ubisoft, except for, you know, the psychos who love them, is because all the new games feel like you've already played them, because they've got the same HUD, they've got the same mechanics, they've got the same progression, they've got the same systems, everything's the same. Like, look at Horizon Zero Dawn. Beautiful looking game, wonderful enemy design, really interesting story. Everything else I've done a million times. It's like I've played the fucking game already. Like, that's not good, and it's not their fault, but they're making that kind of game. A kind of game that's been done so much in such a similar way that it's just all ubiquitous now. It's hard to see uniqueness in something you've done 1,000 times. And that's the problem with modern gaming. It's being sterile at the moment. It's stagnation. We need new things. And that's the great thing about the Switch, when it's not bricking itself for no fucking reason. The games might play at 20 frames per second, but at least they might be different. Thank you for watching. You take care now.